In Pursuit of Truth, this is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. I'm back on double duty today. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching live footage of my free time right there. Ooh, yeah, it's okay. It's all good. Q says to be vigilant for the next 10 days, and so it looks like we'll be pulling some double shifts. John, how many we got?
6.
John, am I going to finish this video only to wake up tomorrow morning and find out that Q posted 20 more posts?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we better be alert then. Hey, John, ask the Q team if they'll order out for takeout or something. 27:26, 11 minutes after the hour of 5. Q says, be alert, next 10 days, false flag attempts may be carried out in attempt to change narrative negative optics. High possibility of multiple day coverage event forcing pause on news. See something, say something. Okay, well, that means two things to me. It means that some big news is coming, and it also means that there's going to be probably another event that's probably going to try and upstage that, a multiple day coverage event. Now, back in the day, that didn't seem too extreme. And if you think about it, 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, shoot, the OJ coverage got multiple day coverage. This thing went on for weeks, right? Nowadays, something blows up and it just moves on right out of the news cycle. That's how fast our news is happening these days, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. For those of you who might remember, I'll use the OJ trial because it's a perfect example. OJ was on every TV all day, every day. We were sick of hearing it. And meanwhile, we've got El Chapo on trial, who would be so much more compelling than OJ. And we're hearing nothing about it. That's how much has changed in our, in our news cycle over the years. See something, say something. Well, I don't want to predict anything or whatnot, but all I can say is, yeah, indeed. See something, be very, very vocal. Say something. If something doesn't look right, say something to somebody who can help. Let's move on to 27:27. 24 minutes after the hour of 5, responding to an Anon who says, I don't think anyone is surprised. Got to be the bottom of the pit to harm another human being the way they do. Hang them high. And then we get this Hill link here from Q. Q says, in the past, what was the punishment regarding a traitor? Coincidence? And the article takes you to this little snippet here from the Hill. And this was from yesterday, it looks. Senate passes bill to make lynching a federal crime. The Senate on Thursday cleared legislation to make lynching a federal crime. The bill, introduced by Senators Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Tim Scott, makes lynching punishable as a hate crime. The bill previously passed the Senate in December, but it did not clear the then GOP-controlled House before the end of the 115th Congress. It passed on Thursday by a voice vote. Booker said that lynching is not a relic of the past, pointing to the attack on Empire actor Jussie Smollett in Chicago, who appears to not be telling the truth. Justice for the victims of lynching has been too long denied, and as we look forward, we must collectively in this body make a strong, unequivocal statement, he added. All right, well, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you followed my channel for a while, we've talked about North Korea, we've talked about FISA, we've talked about Syria, we've talked about McCain, Bush, Clinton, you name it. But I have yet to address the issue that is pressing our nation, which is lynching. It's a hate crime, ladies and gentlemen. It's a hate crime. Well, why would they be doing that? In the past, what was the punishment regarding a traitor? Yeah, they'd hang him. Coincidence? I think not. So this has actually got some really creepy undertones because unfortunately, I think on its own, it obviously sounds ridiculous, right? But if we see in the news over the next few weeks, hint, hint, that something like this occurs, then all of a sudden it's really easy to pump it up in the mainstream narrative. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? Somebody all of a sudden has this happen to them, and next thing you know, we've got hate crimes on our hands, right? And that most certainly isn't what any of us want. Now, other than that, I don't remember the last time I've seen anybody lynched. But if that indeed happens to traitors, I think we understand the reason why they would want to turn that into a hate crime, so that we can shift the narrative, and they would never want to do that to their own citizens. citizens, right? I think you know where that's going. Let's move on to 27:28. 37 minutes after the hour of 5. Responding to this Anon, who was commenting on this Fox video clip, DOJ held meetings on how to oust President Trump. We talked about that in my last video. Why hours after the election did 7 people travel to an undisclosed location to hold a very private and highly secured, guarded meeting? Anons knew it beforehand. Yeah, of course we did. We knew as soon as she lost, that's when this all began, right? You have more than you know. It's all there. Future proves past. Q. Let's move on to 27:29. And we get this picture from Skunk Bay. This was from back on June 10th. And if you want to know more about this story, I would suggest that you watch my video. I would assume it would be June 11th video where we talk all about this. But this appeared to be a missile launch. Now, I know there was an article going around saying that this was a helicopter. And I've had this thing debated exhaustively to me. This thing to me still does not strike me as any kind of possibility of it being a helicopter. I know there's always a resident expert out there that wants to go ahead and disagree with me, and you're welcome to do so. I'm not buying that story. That's just me. You do what you like. Remember the cover story for this helicopter? Yeah, and it was one particular article, and it just got pumped like crazy from a publication that wasn't normally all that popular. Just saying. Coincidence regarding Air Force One regarding, now I'm not sure if that was California route to Canada or Canada route to North Korea, but this was at the time where President Trump was on his way to the North Korea summit, and of course things were very, very tense. And I don't want to rehash this story too much, but this missile was fired, and it looked to have been fired from some sort of sub. Now there was confusion as to whether or not it was a Chinese sub, a Russian sub, or if it was a deep state rogue sub. We're not really sure. And the implication that I kind of got was that it might have even been remote controlled. But we do know that this was fired during President Trump's route and when he was in the air. And that was what was really scary about this. Now, at the same time, we had John Brennan popping off on Twitter. And we also had Michael Avenatti, who posted a tweet with a plane, like in a gun sight. And again, watch my video back on, I would guess it would be June 11th. You'll be able to find it probably in the next day or so after that. But we saw this and we talked a lot about this. But this clearly looked to be a threat on POTUS's life. Very similar to what we saw in Hawaii. Q says, bigger than 25th Amendment attempt to remove. The depth of this is very, very serious. Yeah, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. We've been following this for quite a while, but the fact of the matter is if something happens to the President of the United States, even if you didn't like the President of the United States, it is going to shake up the world, right? Remember, this is all about the sum of all fears. This is threat of world war, ladies and gentlemen. This is serious, serious stuff. People are dying over this. The depth is incredibly serious. The 25th Amendment, of course, that's a very, very serious thing, and these knuckleheads are doing everything they can to oust the president. But the fact of the matter is that everything that they can includes trying to put his life at risk, and they've done that time after time again. And you know that if you've been following QAnon for a while. Now, the sad thing is if you've not been following QAnon, you probably don't know those stories, which is why I suggest going back through either my old videos or other old videos where we talk about a lot of this stuff. But this is really, really freaky stuff. It's definitely dangerous, and these people need to be put away. Now, Q had said whoever authorized this immediately had their security clearance revoked, and then months later we started talking about security clearances getting revoked. Let's move on to 27:30, 17 minutes after the hour of 6. Responding to this Anon, who says, wife of burned amputee veteran here. We are ready. We are with you. We will continue to fight. Godspeed. Q+++. Q responds, your husband answered the call as a brave and selfless patriot. We are forever grateful for his service and sacrifice to this country. May God bless you and your family. Honor and respect. Q. Well, that's really nice, and it's nice for a family like that to get called out directly by Q. So thank you so much for your service. Let's move on to this final post here, or at least final post for now. 27:31, 41 minutes after the hour of 6. Perhaps he could not in good conscience see the world burn. Why, hours after the election, did 7 people travel to an undisclosed location to hold a very private and highly secured, guarded meeting? Why didn't HRC give a concession speech? Because they never thought she was going to lose, and she wasn't planning on doing that. Once you give a concession speech, it kind of makes it official, doesn't it? So she wanted to sort of leave it nebulous because they were hoping they might be able to pull something off. When was the last time a presidential candidate didn't personally give a concession speech? I'm not really sure. I don't really know. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. What happens if the border remained open and the MSM continued to brainwash? Well, Mexico and Canada and the United States would all be one country. Essentially, it would just be one big soup sandwich, and it would probably be all liberal, and it would end up being a socialist country, and then we'd be trying to escape the United States so that we could go flood up some other country, I guess. Think McCabe, number 2. He was number 2 at the FBI interview regarding 25th Amendment. And this was where Rod Rowe was talking about wearing a wire. Q says, think Rod Rowe wearing a wire regarding attempt to entrap regarding the 25th Amendment. And then we have these 2 in brackets accounted for. I'm assuming the 2, would that be McCabe and Comey, number 1 and number 2? Q says identification remaining coming. Now remember, McCabe just kind of came out essentially giving up the ship, if you ask me. I mean, he flat out said that he was basically authorizing this. So big things are coming. And like I said, I think he gave his testimony likely because James Baker also did. And James Baker knew everything that McCabe would have known. And he most certainly would have known at least most of what Comey would have known. So this implicates some really, really big things. And once we figure this out, the world's going to see that this goes all the way up to the top to President Obama at the time. Note, border open context, same drop. Border has more importance than what is publicly disclosed. Q. Looks like McCabe is one of our names here, and of course we know that Rod Rowe was planning to wear a wire. Who would the other names be? It looks like we have 5 names that we still have yet to figure out, but I'm sure Comey, Brennan, your usual suspects kind of pop up to mind. But yeah, with this open border idea, it was a massive thing. I mean, I think they were literally trying to breed us out of existence just to flood the borders until there aren't any Republicans anymore, or conservatives or libertarians or whatever. At some point, that's kind of how it works, and that's how extreme Islam works too, is that they just come over and they just breed you out of existence until you no longer matter. And that was a pretty serious thing. We're starting to see the effects of that all over Europe, of course, as they're battling against that right now. This was a massive, massive deal. All right, those are your Q posts for now. Let me leave you with this. This just popped up from the Daily Mail. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's plane is damaged in minor crash ahead of takeoff in Poland. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plane was damaged in a minor crash ahead of a takeoff in Poland last night. It has emerged. The 69-year-old leader and his entire entourage were on board the chartered El Al plane when a vehicle towing the aircraft on the runway crashed into it at a Warsaw airport. Pictures show large scrapes in the underbelly of the aircraft following the crash, which happened at the end of Netanyahu's 2-day visit to a high-profile security conference in the country. And there it is right there. My goodness, got himself a little scrape there. And that's the repair vehicle. Netanyahu and his wife were taken off the plane and ushered back to their hotel where they stayed the night before flying out today around at noon. Other 8, including Netanyahu's national security advisor and his military secretary, spent the night on the aircraft, saying they did not want to go through the hassle of pre-boarding security checks again. A replacement plane was dispatched from Israel to urgently return the prime minister before the beginning of the Jewish Sabbath at sundown. The mishap happened as Netanyahu's government is trying to purchase an official plane for the prime minister to use. It capped a tumultuous visit for Netanyahu, who was in Poland for a U.S.-sponsored security conference attended by several high-profile Arab officials from Gulf countries. Netanyahu had hoped to use the gathering to showcase his budding ties with the Gulf Arabs, but a verbal gaffe and a video leaked by his office threatened to overshadow the event. On the evening of the meeting, On the eve of the meeting, Netanyahu appeared to call on other participants to prepare for war with Iran. His office later said he had been mistranslated and only called on other countries to combat Iranian influence in the region. Late Thursday, his office briefly leaked a video showing Bahrain's foreign minister and representatives of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates playing down the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and harshly criticizing Iran. Netanyahu's office said the video's release was a technical error and quickly deleted it.
That's not true!
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm buying that cover story either, but it looks like everybody is okay, and that's always a good thing. We sure would have hated for any sort of multiple day media coverage event to be happening, right? So stay vigilant, Patriots. Those are your Q posts for now. I am off to bed. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, then I'm just kidding. It's okay if you didn't like this video. If you are new to my channel, welcome to you. Please keep in mind that from time to time, you'll be unclicked and unnotified and unsubscribed. That's how social media works when you're digging for truth these days. And if you're having a hard time finding my videos, please understand that YouTube has changed their algorithms a little bit, and so it's a little bit more difficult to find me. Just keep searching for me, and I'll keep searching for truth. All right, kids, all my links are down below. My Gab, my BitChute, my Brighteon.com. My Twitter is right here at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. My email, my P.O. box, and my Patreon link, if you want to support my channel, is down below. All that stuff's down below. Hey, Patrick, what's that funky jam that you're playing? The name of it's down below. Check it out. All that stuff's down below. Did I mention that it's all down below? It's down below. I'll see you guys next time. This is Sir Patrick Mack.